No day, zero risk in Gauteng.
Areas have learned the hard way to become water resilient when it comes to dealing with water challenges. This is according to water management expert Professor Anya du Plessis. This comes as Johannesburg residents have been without water for several days due to maintenance works. Let's now unpack this with the Department of Water and Sanitation's Director General, Dr. Sean Phillips, and also we are joined by Professor Anya du Plessis herself, who's joining us for this conversation. Dr. du Plessis, let's start off with you, and then we'll go to the DG. Very good morning. What are the lessons do you think we should learn out of this 86-hour experience where Rand was going through this, what they say was essential maintenance work, but at the end of the day, the frustration that is still felt by the end user?
I think there are a lot of lessons that we can learn as residents, but also from the entities themselves, especially Johannesburg Water. For the resident side, I think what we could have learned, what we are still learning, is how to use water better, more efficiently, and sparingly. For the first time since this crisis has started, I experienced low flow where I stay in North Cliff. And that then triggered to me to say, I need to use water differently. I need to make sure that my taps don't run dry. And that usually is your cold water tap, because it's obviously linked directly to your municipal supply. In terms of entities, what Johannesburg Water, I hope what they are learning is that communication is key, that preparation is key. The amount of people that I saw over the weekend standing in lines, long queues with their containers, people buying water, 16,000 liters of water getting sold out in 3 hours. I mean, it was quite ridiculous, to be quite honest. And unfortunately, what has happened due to the lack of trust and poor communication, sort of, from all involved, is that some people are still thinking that when Rand Water announced maintenance has been completed successfully before time, at 9 o'clock at night, that they would have water immediately. And I think that we as a collective need to address is to make people more aware of how the system works. Yes, it is complicated, but we can put it in bite-sized areas, sizes, so that people can understand how the system works when it is working.
Yeah, and Dr. Sean Phillips, DG for Water Sanitation, thank you so much for making time for us this morning as well. What's your response to what Professor du Plessis has had to say there as well, but from the Department of Water and Sanitation's own overview of what has taken place during this particular period? What are some of the lessons that we should be taking with us? Because here's the other thing, it almost seems that there needs to be a new way of living, and also the point that Professor du Plessis is using, how we use water sparingly as the end user.
Good morning, Aldrin. Good morning to your viewers. I agree with both you and Anya. The reason, as Anya was saying, that it takes quite a while for the systems of the municipalities to recover after Rand Water completed its maintenance is because the demand for water in Gauteng is very high compared to the available supply of water. We are building a new huge dam in Lesotho to bring more water into the integrated Vaal River system, but that's going to take a couple of years still until more water can be drawn out of the integrated Vaal River system. Although the water levels in the Vaal Dam have dropped, it's a system that we have which consists of a number of dams, and we're going to top up the water in the Vaal Dam if necessary from the other dams. So there's no risk at the moment of us having a day zero type of situation in Gauteng. Rand Water will be able to continue extracting at the same level that it has been extracting. But the problem is that the demand for water sometimes exceeds the amount of water that Rand Water is able to supply, particularly during, for example, heat waves that we've had in Gauteng recently. So if we can bring down the demand a little bit through a couple of ways. One is by the municipalities fixing the leaks in their distribution systems. In Gauteng, about 25% of the water that is supplied by Rand Water is lost through leaks in the municipalities' distribution systems. If they can bring that down to 10 or 15%, and if they can also invest a bit more in storage capacity and pumping capacity, and also if residents and businesses can bring down their water use moderately, Now, when I say that, I'm not saying everybody. We know that there are many people in Gauteng already who use water as though it's a scarce resource, who use it sparingly. But there are some people who don't use it sparingly, who use it wastefully. And if those people could use water more sparingly and bring down the average consumption moderately, then we wouldn't have nearly as many difficulties as we're currently having. And after this kind of maintenance, for example, the systems would recover a lot quicker.
Yeah, let's then quickly then speak once again, DG, to the question around infrastructure that has been raised before. Johannesburg Water had a press briefing quite recently, and they spoke about the 27 billion rand critical infrastructure backlog that they are currently dealing with. And they would be going to Treasury to look for some of the funds, and hopefully some of the funds would be available. What's the Department of Water and Sanitation's response to that? And is there a way to try and circumvent the impact of having such a huge backlog by using the private sector to come on board?
Absolutely, Aldrin. And we've established a water partnerships office in collaboration with the Development Bank of Southern Africa and the SALGA, the Local Government Association, to assist municipalities like those in Gauteng, like in Iceland, to put in place partnerships with the private sector, especially with regard to this issue of reducing non-revenue water. If Johannesburg needs billions of rand to replace old, huge pipelines that are leaking, then the private sector can provide those funds to assist Johannesburg, and there can be a return on that investment. These savings from the municipality can reduce leaks and reduce the amount of water that they have to buy from Rand Water.
Okay, let's just quickly see if we can re-establish that line there to the DG there. Unfortunately, the line isn't as clear as we would have liked it to be, DG. But in the meantime, let's go to Professor du Plessis once again. Professor du Plessis, here's the other thing about the water infrastructure issue and as well as the backlog, is that the municipalities have their own autonomy around how they're going to, the amount of money that they need, the infrastructure that needs to be fixed. But there's also been a question that has been raised that should we be seeing more oversight from the Department of Water and Sanitation and also its own ability to intervene when there is a crisis?
Well, that is an interesting question. And I think if you ask the Johannesburg public at this point in time whether there needs to be more oversight, they will say to you, yes, definitely. Well, they are, when you say, listen, do you think we should intervene more, especially within Johannesburg and maybe even Mogale City? The answer would be yes. But in reality, we need to remember that we need to trust people, or try to. We need to give them a chance. The city of Johannesburg has said that they have a turnaround plan for Johannesburg Water. They are starting to invest more. But I think what we need to be cognizant of is that 27 billion is not going to be able to be spent immediately. For this infrastructure to be fixed and to be upgraded and for flow meters to be installed, etc., etc., the list is very long. For that to happen, that is going to take a minimum of 3 to 5 years. Yes, Johannesburg Water is building storage there in Brixton, but that needs to improve. They have highlighted that 42 reservoirs are leaking. That also needs to be addressed. I know that they are going to start fixing Herstiel 2 that has a crack from 1.4 meters, which meaning that they can only fill the reservoir up till just below that crack. So they are going to do that early 2025. But once again, for residents to actually experience some relief, that will only be possible if it's a collaborative effort where if private sector is asked to enter the ring, there has to be some assurances for them that the money that they do give, the effort that they put in, that actually is assured that it goes to where it needs to go, as well as obviously that they get some kind of benefit or incentive from that. For residents, the reality is that we need to start using water differently. That, as the DG has said, yes, we are not blaming everyone. I think that's another thing that's a primary issue here, is the ongoing blame game. So yes, the municipality is saying that consumption is high, but we need to remember that consumption includes non-revenue water, theft, vandalism, and so on. So residents will have to come with the reality to say, I need to use water differently, especially during maintenance periods. The other reality is also that maintenance periods, these types of periods, are going to happen more and more often. Whether it be 86 hours, hopefully not. But the reality is that we need to once again say thank you to Rand Water. Yes, it was an uncomfortable time. Yes, people are going to still sit with low flow for a couple of days. But if all the communities work together, we can try and lessen the overall impact. So in short, I would say that, we can't now ask the Department of Water and Sanitation to immediately intervene. It has to be a collaborative effort where we all sit in a room and speak about the uncomfortable truths. And one of them is the city of Johannesburg. They have to be held responsible, especially for the chaos that ensued on Saturday.
Okay. And just quickly, DG, in conclusion, one of the proposals that were made before coming out of the Joburg City Council was to have water tankers and buckets being deployed at various areas, including for individual homes as well. Is that and I know at the time we were joking and laughing at the mayor when he was making that proposal, but seeing the situation that we're currently facing in the province, specifically with the city of Joburg, do you think that this is an option that the city should be pursuing?
We don't see it as an option at all. We think water tankers should only be used as a temporary measure when no other solutions are available. So, for example, during this recent maintenance by Rand Water, Joburg Water did deploy water tankers, but unfortunately it didn't deploy sufficient numbers of water tankers quickly enough. Belatedly, it did bring in more water tankers later, but as Anya said, hopefully Joburg City Council will learn from this experience, and the next time some maintenance like this happens, they'll have more water tankers available. But it's not a long-term solution. It's not a permanent solution. We do have problems. For example, there are reports that some owners of water tankers have deliberately sabotaged infrastructure so that they can get more contracts for delivering water through water tankers. So we think it should only be used as a temporary measure in circumstances such as we've experienced in Johannesburg over the last few days.
Okay, DG, thank you so much for your time. Sean Phillips there, Dr. Sean Phillips, the DG of Water and Sanitation, as well as Professor Anya du Plessis, who's a water management expert there.
Thanks for watching. Share, like, and subscribe.